Hey everybody, it is Thursday night. My name is Grace Pomeroy and I'm a financial educator, speaker, and coach, and I help you make money your friend in life, work, and love. Tonight's theme is all about Q&A, so I hope that you brought your marriage and money questions with you. I know that we had a couple people submit questions in advance, so I'll go through those first. But whether you are single, you've been married a long time, you're in a partnered relationship, whatever it is, I'd love to hear your questions about money and relationships. This is going to be an interactive time, so please submit your questions. I'd absolutely love to answer them. Alrighty, so let's start with a question that was submitted by someone early on. Do you think if you have a his and hers bank account, by the way, just to give a little context, if you haven't read my blog post for this week, it's all about having yours, mine, and ours money, and some of the benefits of keeping some money, a small portion or a large portion, depending on your marriage and money philosophy, separate. So this person asked, do you think if you have a his and hers bank accounts, it's important to still have both names as signers on the account? So I have to admit that I had to do a little bit of research to figure out exactly what this person was asking, because there's a lot of different ways that you can join yourself to another person's account. For instance, you can be a co-owner on the account. You can be a co-signer on the account. I think what this person is talking about is being a co-signer. Now, of course, if your partner needs a co-signer in order to be able to get that bank account, that's going to be something that's very important. But what I would actually suggest is having you be joint owners on the account instead. And the reason why I would say this is because if you're joint owners on the account, it's easy for both of you to be able to access that money. And if something were to ever happen to your partner, you want to be able to have easy access to that money that belongs to both of you. Now, personally, the separate accounts that Tyler and I have, my husband and I have, are actually kept in our same bank account. We just happen to have separate savings accounts that we use for those purposes, and it's pretty easy for us to then transfer money back and forth throughout the month as we need to do. That's what works best for us. For other people, it might work better to have completely separate accounts. It really depends on your marriage, but I would, of course, suggest that you're able to get easy access to that money, that both of you have that ability, just in case something were to happen. Alrighty, so the next question that we see here is, at what point in a dating relationship would you suggest asking about debt? And do you have any suggestions for how to ask the question? I have to say, this is such an exciting question to answer because I think it's so incredibly important that people are honest about their debt. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she mentioned to me a story I'd never heard before, which is that before she and her husband got married, she found out that her husband had a lot of credit card debt. And she didn't find this out until a couple weeks before they were about to get married. And it was something that scared her a lot. They were able to work through it together, but she ultimately wished she would have known it far in advance so that they could have made a plan together for how they were going to pay off this debt. So as far as when you should have this conversation, I think the year mark can be a good marker in terms of having some of those serious conversations. If not then, maybe before you get engaged or before you move in together, before you take any large relationship milestones. I think talking about debt is really important. I was reading a couple of blog articles on this topic, getting prepared for this conversation tonight, and one person suggested on their blog that before you make any big relationship moves, you should actually have a finance conversation where you essentially dump everything out on the table. So your budget, your money habits, your debt, your credit, all of those things out on the table. And they suggest that you take multiple hours to do this. That's certainly one approach you can take. An approach that I would suggest is actually just coming from a place of vulnerability. Talking about your own experiences with debt, whether they're your personal experiences or experiences of your parents, experiences of friends, and your views on debt. And then asking your partner what their views are. Starting out with your own perspective is a great way to crack open the conversation. Now, if you're thinking about millennials having conversations around debt, I think it's a little bit easier because most of us are carrying heavy student loan debt burdens. So it's pretty easy for us to chat about debt in general, but people may not be as eager to talk about credit card debt. And that's something that's incredibly important to get out on the table. So if you have a suspicion that your partner might have debt, or you just want to open up the conversation, start with where you are and grow from there. If you find that your partner has credit card debt, this is a good opportunity to take a step back and I invite you to listen and take the role of the reporter rather than the role of the interrogator or the judger. Listen. How did your partner get into this debt? What plan do they have to repay it? Are they nervous about it? Are they scared? Listen closely during that conversation, and then in subsequent conversations, as it comes up again, talk about how you might make a plan together. And certainly don't rush into trying to pay off your partner's debt. Rather, have a conversation about a long-term plan and what money habits might have brought your partner to that specific situation. If you're looking to crack open conversations with your partner around money, especially around tricky topics like this, I thoroughly suggest that you check out my Marriage and Money survey. One key part of that survey is taking a financial inventory of your income, of your debts, of your credit, all those different pieces of the puzzle. We go into just a little bit, but it certainly cracks open the conversation for more. And we also chat through your money habits. Sometimes it's helpful to have a third-party perspective when it comes to a relationship that you are so close to. You probably can't necessarily see the forest through the trees, if you know what I'm saying. Alrighty, so I'd love to get some more questions from the crowd here. Feel free to submit any questions that you might have. I'll go on to the next one that I received earlier on, which is, how do you suggest navigating one partner wanting to make a big job change and needing to express money concerns without making them feel unsupported? This is a really big and important question. One of the things that I talk about in my date night club right off the bat is that you're not always going to share the same dreams and goals as your partner. That's why I think it's really important to have some separate money that allows you to pursue those. But of course, when it comes to income, that's likely something that's going to affect you both. So again, similar to the debt conversation, I invite you to take the role of the reporter. Hear more about what's going on. Hear more about what's behind your partner's desires. Sometimes your partner's just trying out a new idea to see how it will work. Other times, they might be truly passionate about it. So it's important that you get all the details on the table. I'm starting to follow more marriage folks on Instagram, and someone posted the other day about marriage and money, and when it comes to your partner, it's important that you don't side with the enemy, so to speak. So always showing up as cheerleader first and asking questions later. Now, of course, that doesn't work in every situation, but I think most of the time that's what we should do. We should give our partner the benefit of the doubt, hear them out about the situation, get all the details, and then, when cooler heads prevail, have a conversation about the serious pieces. If they're going to be taking a step back in terms of income, ask questions. How do you think we'll make up that income? What are some other ways that you or I might make that income through a side hustle? Can I ask for a raise at my work in order to be able to cover the gap? What's the long-term goal to create a sustainable financial environment for us as a couple? Alrighty, so I hope that those were some helpful answers to those questions. Love to see if there are any other questions out there. And if you're watching later on, please feel free to submit your questions in the comments. I will run back through my Facebook Live video all weekend and for however long you want to watch this video, and I will answer those questions. And hopefully, as you see those questions come in too, you can help each other get answers to those questions. All right, so let's take one last question here, which is, how do you engage a financially anxious partner? Now, if you've been following my content for any length of time, you probably know that this is an issue that I've faced myself. My husband tends to get a little bit financially anxious. I, on the other hand, tend to get pretty financially controlling, so we are not necessarily a match made in heaven in that way. But I would say the best way to engage a financially anxious partner is slowly, over time. Don't bombard them with information. Take the time to just kind of sprinkle in information about finances, positive things if you can, to get them engaged. Another way to do this is to ask their advice. Assume that they can be a money expert and let them step up to the challenge. When you're facing a money issue, large or small, bring them into the conversation. Say, hey, I'm just curious, what would you do? Start with something small and grow from there. And of course, one of my best suggestions is start having money dates. And if you need help with how to do that, my Money Date Night Club is here for you. For $15 per month, you'll get an email from me with all the conversation questions and even a video and activities for you to complete together. It's a really great way to help you get on the same page in a completely non-anxious way. Alrighty, well, that's all the questions that I have. Again, feel free to submit your questions as they come in. I'd be grateful to respond to you. And I hope that you'll head over to my website to talk about some of those resources that I mentioned during today's Facebook Live. My date night club, as well as my marriage and money survey. And if you haven't been over to my speaking page in a while, I am upping my game on that page. And I'd really love for you to take a look and let me know if there are any nonprofits, retreats, conferences, workplaces where I can spread this message of making money your friend. Thanks again so much for joining me, whether it's tonight or some other night. Hopefully you have a wonderful evening and you can stay warm in the midst of this polar vortex. See you later.